It has been a great end for Australia in the 2022 cycle. Remember, in this entire World Test Championship cycle so far, they have just lost one game, and that was to Sri Lanka in Sri Lanka. Now, in the Boxing Day Test, Australia managed to beat South Africa by an innings and 180 plus runs. And that means they have won a series against South Africa at home after 17 long years. It was their first series win against South Africa after 8 years. Remember, they had won in South Africa in 2014. They lost in 2016 and they lost in 2018. Now they have redeemed themselves in 2022. On the other hand, India have also ended their World Test Championship cycle in 2022 with a mixed bag. Not performing that well in overseas, but have been superb in home conditions. So, we are all probably set for an India versus Australia final on June 7th at the Oval in the ICC World Test Championship. Remember, it will be the second time that India reaches the final. If it happens for Australia, it will be their first time. But remember, there are still some teams that can upset the apple cart, although 99% it is confirmed that it will be India versus Australia because of two reasons. Number one, Australia's win has ensured that their percentage points is 78.57. Now, if they win in Sydney and if they lose 0-4 in India, it doesn't matter because they have now gotten to the threshold where they will be over 60 percentage points, which seems to be the minimum qualification for the World Test Championship final this time. 78.57, India are second with 58.93. But look at South Africa. They had started the series with 60 percentage points. Now they are down in 50 percentage points. And they only have 3 tests remaining, which is 2 against the West Indies. That could give them certain bonus points for that. But in all certainty, it looks to be an India versus Australia series in the final. The Border Gavaskar Trophy that will be played in February, March could be a preview to your final. But there is one team that can upset the apple cart, and that is surprisingly Sri Lanka. 53.3 percentage points, but they only have 2 tests remaining. But remember, those 2 tests will be played in March against New Zealand, which is away. Now the equation is pretty simple. Australia versus South Africa, 1 test. Australia versus India, 4 tests. That is your preview to the final, potentially. South Africa versus West Indies, 2 tests. Sri Lanka versus New Zealand, 2 tests. So overall now you have a total of 9 tests remaining in this entire World Test Championship cycle. Now what is going to happen in this case? The permutations and combinations are pretty simple. If Australia wins 4-0 in India, then India are out if Sri Lanka beat New Zealand. Because Australia will then accumulate so many percentage points and they'll dent India in a big way, which is why if Australia beats India in India 4-0, then India are out if Sri Lanka beat New Zealand. If South Africa lose 0-3 to Australia and win versus West Indies, what must happen? They need Australia to beat India 3-0 or 4-0 and hope New Zealand also beats Sri Lanka. In that way, their World Test Championship final hopes are alive. But if South Africa manages to hang on for a draw or win in Sydney, then it changes the entire complexion, because then this India versus Australia series will determine the fate of 2 other teams. If India and Australia play out a 1-1 draw, then irrespective of other results, if Sri Lanka beats New Zealand, if South Africa beats Australia and then the West Indies, both Australia and India will qualify for the World Test Championship. Because with South Africa's loss, it has meant that India can afford to lose more than 1 game, because their percentage points will not take a big hit otherwise. Remember, the caveat that I had pointed out was that if South Africa defeated Australia 3-0, then India should not lose more than 1 game. But Australia have now won 2, and since if they win in Sydney, then even if Australia loses 0-4, it will not matter. So, this is the permutation and combination. For South Africa, if Australia wins 4-0 in India, then India are out if Sri Lanka beat New Zealand. It seems to be highly unlikely because in the last 15 years, Australia has won just one test in India, and that was in 2017. This Australian team, although great, they might still struggle to get on top of India because remember, they are playing in 3 out of 4 pitches which are spin friendly. Nagpur, Ahmedabad and Delhi. The only pitch that has pace and bounce in it is Dharamshala. And that could be a difference maker altogether. So simple for Australia. They have all but sealed their qualification for the World Test Championship. If they draw one and they win against South Africa, then that's it. They will be the first team to reach the final. However, if Sri Lanka beats New Zealand and India manages to lose 3-0 or 4-0 to Australia, then I see Sri Lanka going ahead. If South Africa wins against the West Indies, but if they lose to Australia, their chances are out because they needed to win this series either 2-0 or 3-0. Then they would have had a chance in the series against the West Indies. Unfortunately, that is not happening now. So, June 7th, you may want to mark it in your calendar in 2023 because you'll may be seeing India versus Australia at the Oval. But for that to happen, if New Zealand wins against Sri Lanka, automatically whatever is the series result against India and South Australia, it will mean they will be playing at the Oval. So the World Test Championship is reaching its ultimate conclusion. The Border Gavaskar Trophy on February-March will be the preview to the final that could be played at the Oval. Thank you so much, folks, for joining us for this live. We'll be back with more updates on sports today. Press the like, comment and share button. We are also on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Thank you.